gone. The taste on your tongue reminds you the bottle only lasts so long. And when you wake up, well, you know who you are. The bottle only goes so far. Just lay your head down. Any more and you'll drown. The bottle will take you out.
All right. Music, dialogue, news. So, who are you listening to? The Real McCoys.
Is that who that was?
Yeah, I think that's who it was.
That was the Real McCoys with their song, The Hangover.
We don't play enough of them. Johnny's going to help make sure we play enough of them and keep us on track. We're giving him the songs that you help send us. We're giving him the songs that, the artists that come through here. So send us the music. We got a lot of music to get into this show. We're going to hear from Pedophiles and others. We got a lot of news coming up as well. We're also going to talk about what's going on around town. I know since last time we were talking to you about the Otanana Trio show with El Jumbotron and Expensive Jeans, who you can't listen to anywhere else besides a live show, which, I mean, that was pretty tremendous. So, I don't know, all this was packed into a house. It was a lot of space. Sounds small in a house. I mean, it's as big as some of these venues are inside, at least around the stage area. So that was going on. I know Johnny was there because he's in El Jumbotron. Yeah. And we got all kinds of other things that are going on in Houston and around Houston. What you been seeing, Derrick?
Well, first, what'd you do, Johnny, other than that show? What's your week been like?
It's been pretty good, man. Just hanging in the garden. Not doing too much. Taking it easy.
Rain.
Yeah, how's the garden doing? I haven't been by this week, but I've been coming by.
For the first time, we're growing potatoes. Those are going really hard. Strawberries, so.
All the greens are still doing good?
The greens are doing good. I haven't really seen the damage since the flooding, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because it rained
pretty rough.
Crazy hard last night.
Yeah, man, cool. Well, I'll have to come by and check out the garden. I didn't really do much this week, Micah. Other than the show, did you get into any other local?
Well, I did talk about that art opening by right of conquest that took place at G-Spot. I think it's still going on, but that was, I don't know, kind of vibrant, had historic figures of the West juxtapositioned in vibrant colors as well as natural scenery. They had a St. Francis of somewhere, I forgot, in West Texas, and just covered in like the natural, what do you call it? I guess the wildlife from that area. Just all kinds of things like for thought and contemplation that you may not always get. And this artist, Joshua Kite, was in from Austin for the opening. So I did make that. I as far as things going forward, there's always things to go to in case you didn't make it to enough stuff. I do see that a benefit in addition to one that Johnny was talking about, but later in this month, I see our friend Mikey Seals invited me to this. Derrick, you may find this interesting. 30-foot fall, say hello to the angels, dead to the world. Goodness gracious, so much going on there.
Where's
Over
that
here, at the Southside Skate Park on Iowa Street in South Houston. So that's a little different location, May 26th, and it's hosted for the Kids Hearts Punk Rock Show and Skate Jam.
30-Foot Fall does a lot of benefit shows.
Man, they're all about it. They're good people, good music, and I don't know, man. The child heart patients and families and a little heart there with all that. How could you? What's not to love about it, And a skate jam,
When was this?
This is May 26th. So it's a Sunday out at a Southside Skate Park. So it definitely sounds like something to get into with 6 different acts there. Maybe we should all go down there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
Tell me one more time when it is.
May 26th, Sunday.
Okay, so a couple weeks away, right? Not this weekend. Cool. So, hey, are we correct that we're not taking calls again today, right? Through the
We're taking
traditional-
calls.
We're taking calls for
donations
support
and
of
support.
KPFT.
Support, help us.
We definitely are appreciative of everything that KPFT, the structure, and all the supporters through the years have left here. These are like artifacts in a way. We get
Artifacts.
to be, yeah, for sure.
We're
I mean,
living
we
in
get
a
to be
museum.
part of this, and continue a tradition. But the only way we can do that is if the listeners who are also, in a sense, the same thing. Here we are, able to
Skeletons.
talk about ideas instead of just accept what comes through the feed.
And they can talk to us, usually.
Yeah,
Typically.
yeah. So, I mean, if you like something like that,
Well,
you think it needs to be maintained and supported, there's so many ways you can, and I'm sure most of you know, but we're in that time. There's all kinds of tickets being given away and stuff like that at the, at the $100 and up level, I believe, maybe even $80. There's goodies they can talk to you about.
And if you didn't get the message, if we didn't make it clear enough earlier when we were first coming in the show, we do have 4 tickets to the Astros game tonight, which is the Astros against the Texas Rangers.
Oh, wow.
And there's
That's a big Texas game then,
parking
for sure.
pass, 4 tickets. The game's tonight, so you got to pick it up by tonight. And that's coming with for somebody who supports at the $300 level and above. You can
Nice.
get those tickets. So, yeah, that's something we got going on. If you feel like calling in during our show and letting them know that you heard it on Freethinker Radio, that goes a long way.
Definitely it does. We're trying to do our part, and we're looking for different ways to work with everybody, because what's most important is the dialogue, a reasoned approach, and analysis of the news and events of our time. So thank you, KPFT, for the opportunity to continue that work with
And I
Freethinker Radio.
also can pretty much guarantee you that the things that you hear Micah and I and Johnny talk about every week here at our 3 o'clock slot, as well as on our Monday slot from 4 to 6 on the HD side,
And the music.
you're not going to hear these things, the music, or the topics anywhere else. And I would even say, typically, even on other shows on KPFT, I do think that we're bringing something unique that you're not going to hear elsewhere. So please help us continue to do this. We've been doing this. Mike and I have been doing this since summer of 2011, and we're happy to keep doing it here on KPFT. So yeah, you want to get into some local? I got at least.
Yeah,
a
let's
few
get
of these.
into talking about. Oh, I know that Johnny was going to talk about a benefit show coming up this weekend, though. That's taking place at Dan Electro's. That
Go
our
for it.
friends, the Real McCoys, are playing, but I don't know all the details on it. So that's
No, the real McCoys aren't playing.
okay, they're not playing it. Sorry, see, I
Tell
don't
us
know
about
anything.
It's actually Brannigan, my other friend.
Brannigan.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't-
they're putting on this benefit show for it's a cancer benefit, helping their friend Chelsea out. I'm sure
That's what's
it
up.
comes with that, as everyone knows, tons of medical bills. And for a lot of us musicians, I've been in that position where you have a friend who needs some help, and pretty much your skill of raising money is rock. So you must, put on a show and try to raise as much money as you can. I think it's a great way. Also, the Space Cadets are a really big name. That's like kind of surf rock, punk. It's a very fun show.
Yeah, and I think that benefits are important in a lot of ways, because it's like community coming together, of course, but also, the beginnings of this show, Freethinker Radio, came out of the Houston Freethinkers activist community, and one of the first things that we did, among many other things over the years, was benefit shows for different causes, anti-drug war, for benefit shows for community gardens, for raising awareness about police brutality or AIDS awareness, or just all kinds of different things.
Underground radio stations, normal.
yeah,
Vets
just-
for peace,
so-
food not bombs.
It's a good way for the community to come together and show support for each other.
It really is something that anybody could do if they see a need
Exactly.
and they want to fill a need. And it's like just, you might not have any like direct service to offer, but if you offer some kind of entertainment or put some small effort into planning something fun, a lot of times the community is willing to come, and in the midst of enjoying that event, they're going to be willing to donate some money to the cause.
Well, we did have a rad beep. Did I just get a rad beep party? That was pretty interesting. It was fun. You were supposed to be able to come and just talk about any kind of radical beep that you had to discuss. And it was really surprising because diverse people that didn't know one another kind of got flyers and such and came to that. So there's all kinds of new and creative ways that will make your event unique as well. So let's get into some of this local news and such.
I got a couple of stories here. So and I will say this for anybody who's listening who is aware of what Discord is. We are going to try to take some calls later on in the show using the Discord app. If anybody knows about that, you can check out the Conscious Resistance
This is a
on
brave
the
new
Discord
step.
app. Yeah, it's something new we're trying. I started doing this last week on a different platform, but it'll allow us to still take phone calls, and I know that some of our listeners who maybe aren't based in Houston or who have just found us through other avenues would maybe like to call in, and since we can't call in the typical way unless you're going to call in to support, then if you want to do that, call in at 713-526-5738. But yeah, if you're on Discord app, you can call through the Conscious Resistance channel later on, and we'll get those calls on the line. But first news I got is something related to the mayor. Mayor Sylvester Turner, who we do know is up for re-election this year. There's an election coming in November, and there's Bill King and Tony Busby and Sylvester Turner who are running, and been a lot of...
Have you ever looked at their websites? They kind of look similar. Sorry.
Oh, they all kind of look just basic, is an easy way to say it. But
is that a template?
The mayor has been getting a lot of heat around the firefighters. We've been talking about this for a while. Proposition B not getting paid, the firefighters being laid off. Now they finally gave the raises to the firefighters, but they laid off 220 plus different firefighters plus other municipal workers, and that's been going on for quite a while now. So as that's happening, Tony Busby, one of the other candidates, he put out like a political attack ad, a campaign ad, I guess you could say, with like the mayor hanging out with a bunch of pigs in suits. And so it's actually heating up in this way where they're kind of slinging some mud a little bit. And so the mayor he got pretty upset this weekend or this week.
Things are
City
serious
Council.
in Houston.
I'm just gonna we'll see if this plays real quick, this short little clip. I'm gonna just mic it up. This is the mayor reacting to what he's saying is unfair behavior from campaigning, and he basically, I don't know if he's threatening free speech. He doesn't really make it clear exactly what he means by this comment. I'll actually just read it. He says, quote, "It has gotten out of hand and I'm stopping it right now. If there's any campaigning at fire stations or on city property or city buildings, people will be disciplined. I'm not going to tolerate it. And being disrespectful, all these comments being made, it's gotten out of hand, and this culture is to stop, and it's going to stop." So it's not really clear what exactly he means. Obviously, he seems a little angry and upset about maybe some things people have been saying online. And the firefighters, who obviously are upset with the mayor, the firefighters union, have, I think, endorsed Tony Busby, or they're supporting him, and he's been, they've been hanging out with each other, basically. There's been a lot of campaigning going on. And so the mayor, I think that this was his response, is saying, like, you can't be campaigning on city property. And people were quick to post pictures of the mayor campaigning at firefighter stations in 2015 on social media and on his Facebook page and things like that. So pretty interesting, all this stuff's going on. But this is like the second time that in over a matter of just a couple of months we've seen the mayor kind of lose his cool at city council. The last time he was being called a dictator by Dwight Boykins, and he was like, "That's mayor. I'm Mayor Turner. I'm the CEO of the city," and had this really kind of, I describe it as authoritarian type voice with his approach. But I don't know, so it's interesting to see him
It seemed like people were a little shocked around him, just given the facial expressions and the questions of the people in that video around them.
Councilmember Stardig, who we played the video, was that last week, I think, or on Monday? I did a quick interview with her last week about 5G and about this, and she's actually one of the people who in the video said, "Can you clarify, were you just threatening one of my colleagues?" Because the mayor said, "That's it, I'm not warning you." He just had this kind of, it's like, whoa. And Dwight Boykins said, "What are you going to do to me, man? What are you going to..." It was pretty, I'm like, dang, this is weird. This is crazy. City council's getting all drama like this. I want you to hear his voice, so this is just a quick clip of the mayor saying that. Let me see if this works.
Political activity at the city's fire stations. It has gotten out of hand, and I'm stopping it now. If there's any campaigning at fire stations or at city property, on city buildings, people will be disciplined. I'm not going to tolerate it. Okay? And being disrespectful, all these comments that are being made, it's gotten out of hand. And this culture has to stop.
The culture.
So,
he wants to stop the culture.
He's a little upset there, as you can tell. But Johnny's like cracking up over in the other room. What do you think, Johnny?
It's kind of funny. Well, obviously this is kind of the first I've heard of it, but you said that there's pictures of him doing the same thing.
This happened about a month ago so basically they were talking about the Proposition B, and they were trying to go back and forth asking him about the budget, and the mayor was refusing to give them the information, and Dwight Boykins said something. He's like, "Man, this ain't no dictatorship." He's like, "Come on, Sylvester, I support you." He's like, "That's Mayor Turner. That's Mayor Turner to you. I am the CEO of the city." He got like all I don't know
Once
how
you
to
get to
describe.
the end
He
of
got
your
upset,
term,
dude.
you're gonna be acting like that. You've already felt like that way for so
Well,
long.
he's fighting for re-election though, and I think that's the thing is this. He's realizing that like, okay, this happens to be election year. He's getting beat up by the firefighter on the firefighters issue, and then now like I don't know, but
Why would anybody really want that job? Because I really do feel like that you would be getting beaten up from every angle, no matter what. What you do, you got to be prepared for that.
I think that's the problem with if you're trying to go in there and make decisions for other people. You know, the mayor is, like he said, he thinks he's the CEO, so he thinks he knows what's better for what Houstonians should be doing instead of.
But the city's not a company, really.
Well, the
it kind
city of
is.
Houston is a company.
Technically, it is. They are
but
corporations.
The Houstonians
Really?
are more than just people who like subscribe to this company, right, or work for it, or right. See, I mean, like that's the
I
thing.
never
That's
signed
what
up.
happens exactly.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
blur. Hey, I'm going to take 1 minute to shout this out. We were just talking about Discord and how you can reach us through all these different avenues. And we were talking about getting up and doing anything yourself and making something happen. I just had a message from somebody that got up and did something themselves, who without which Freethinker Radio wouldn't even exist. Gave us our first opportunity on Local Live. Wanted to say hey to you, Derrick, and let us know that he's on his way to Austin and tuned into us right now, etc. And it's good to hear us. So shouts to Jordan and everybody who
Oh,
bothers
heck
to
yeah.
put something together, and thanks for reaching out to us and all the
Thanks,
support you've given us throughout the years. So
Yeah, dude, I think that's awesome that Jordan's listening. I mentioned a few moments ago that we started the show in summer 2011, and it was because of Jordan, who's been a voice in the community for years and was involved with Local Live Houston, which is where we got our start. So we're thankful for that. So that story there with the mayor is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. I got another one here, Micah, that you might be interested in. Well, I know you're interested in.
I'm interested in the mayor. He's serious stuff now, and his character's starting to become like, it seems like he's more stressed out than when he was like running before or something. I keep seeing him have these
Might not be that difficult
emotional
to tip him over the edge. That's the thing is, I tried to ask him about this last week, and I asked him, like, there's nothing else in the budget you can change or no program you can change to pay the firefighters and not fire anybody, and he said, we scraped the bucket. You could hear the frustration in his voice, and I think he's
But I saw this other video with
done.
a council person that said, well, there's room to talk about that and look at that.
Well, and I did see this other thing, that since we're talking local, you know the other council member, Michael Kubosh, who is, he's just a council member there, whatever your opinions about him. He was questioning with the city's financial officer, and he made it clear that the mayor used the hotel occupancy tax, the HOT, to pay for his travel and for his, what Kubosh referred to his entourage. Kubosh was like, we all took a trip to, I think he said, it was some city diplomatic mission, right? But Kubosh said, I paid out for myself, my own thing out of my own pocket. I'm a council member, and you're saying you paid for the mayor and his however many crew out of and she said, yes, that's accurate. So he's getting like, people are just, I think, putting more of an eye on the city, which is always a good thing, honestly. Like, if people paid more attention, then maybe half the things that go on wouldn't happen. There wouldn't be as much of a need for all this. So I think that's a good thing overall. But this next story that I want to get into touches on something that we've talked about quite a bit in a number of different ways, and that is an issue in the Houston area, and is just an issue in the world at large, unfortunately, as disturbing as it is, and that's sex trafficking, human trafficking. Just a couple days ago, it was reported that an undercover human trafficking sting yielded 47 arrests in the last 10 days in the Katy area. This is there's pictures online of the 47 different people who were arrested in this ongoing case. I think it was they called it Operation Tri-Point over the period of March 19th until just recently. Houston Police Department Sergeant John Wall said that dozens of people arrested, and it was again in the Katy area. They haven't really released. It said it took place between March 19th and March 28th, so just within a week, and it happened in Katy and Fort Bend counties. And the reason I say this is something that we've talked about before is because, well, I mean, every other week or every week almost, there's a news story about somebody being sexually assaulted or molested by an authority figure. We talked about this last week, how authority plays into that. But I just think it's important to highlight that, especially because some have said that Houston is a quote unquote hub because of being an international city and I-10 and port and all these different easy access in and out of the city. So the sergeant said 47 people were arrested in total, 27 who were females, 20 were males, 8 were confirmed victims, and 8 were charged with human trafficking-related offenses. The other charges, such as sexual assault of a child, possession of controlled substance, and unlawful carrying of a weapon, were also filed. He said, what we know is that human trafficking is occurring. It's not just an inner city problem. It's occurring out in the suburbs. It's occurring in smaller communities. The youngest victim was 16 years old, and another victim was a runaway. And he added that most of the recruiting occurred online and through social media, as much as 90%. Quote, young adults spend an enormous amount of time on social media, and they are vulnerable. They don't understand the risk involved. He did not explain how the task force apprehended the traffickers. And this is where I think it gets interesting, unfortunately, is because we know that police use different tools, often without getting warrants. And we've talked about stingrays, for example, stingray, cell phone surveillance. There's a number of different tools. And if the cops are out there arresting people that obviously, like human traffickers, should be, held accountable. But when they do it in a manner where they're not willing to disclose how they're revealing it, which could just be like, hey, we don't want the criminals to know how we caught them. I get that sort of thing. But at the same time, often the reason there's a secrecy, based on what I've seen, especially towards the surveillance methods for catching people, whether that's drug dealers, traffickers, whatever you have, is that they legally can't release information because they sign non-disclosure agreements with these companies. And so if they were to disclose it, not only could they be sued by the company, but then also you might find out that they obtained the evidence in an illegal manner or without a warrant and things like that. So it starts to get sticky in these situations when you're trying to hold people accountable, but also I think, I don't want to say follow the law as much as respect people's right to be free from search and seizure and warrants and things of that sort. But I think the bigger picture that I want you guys to take away as you're hearing this story about, again, a 47 arrest over a matter of a week in March in the Katy area, just west here of Houston, is that human trafficking, this kind of thing is going on more, all over the world. Like we've talked again, like about individual cases in the church of, say, priests molesting and doing all kinds of disturbing things to hundreds of kids and dozens of kids in different areas. It's something that's a bigger problem. I have another story that I'll get into in just a little bit because it's more national, but it has to do with a similar topic. And I think that, as we've said before, after a while you have to ask yourself, like, how many cases of these sort of things can you pull up before you say, like, yeah, this is an epidemic, or that it's a culture that, like, oh, it's not just that, oh, in the church there's some of this going on, and oh, it's just the Catholic Church. Nope, Baptist Church, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, some Christian churches. It's not just the priests, though. It's teachers, officers, janitors, and what all. I mean, think of all the different stories that you pulled up.
It's horrible.
Different areas.
I can't think of them all.
Politicians, people in Hollywood. So it's more than just a few bad apples. I think that
that's a lot of bad apples.
There's a bigger problem than people want to admit or realize, that there is a culture that pervades different aspects of our society. But Micah, I'll put that off for the moment. So I know you got something else.
No, you'll address that issue right now.
You want me to? I have another story related to it, but we can hold off. It has to do with the crazy sex cult in Hollywood and something that's going on right now.
Let's hear the sex cult.
Let's just
story.
keep going.
Okay, all right. So we talked about this, I think, about Nexium. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah,
Allison
for sure.
Mack, the chick from Smallville. She was arrested with other people for allegedly being involved in this New York sex cult that had ties to Hollywood.
She was a recruiter.
And ties to the Hillary Clinton campaign as well, donating to her campaign, at one point being referred to as Hillary's cult. Pretty crazy story you can find from a few years back. But it was being ran by this guy, Keith Raniere, who is facing charges or accusations and charges of sex trafficking, child pornography, for running this secretive cult, which it's spelled NXIVM, but it's pronounced as Nexium. And even within Nexium, there was apparently another more secretive cult called DOS, which was an acronym, or DOS, for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which roughly means Master of the Obedient Female Companions. And so the women, apparently, like Allison Mack and others, this crazy thing is her Twitter account's still up there, so you can see her tweeting at different celebrities and women, telling them to get involved with this awesome female empowerment group that she's been involved with lately. And it was this cult. She was recruiting people for this cult. And so arrests happened over the last couple months. People have been pleading, but now the trial's actually started. And Keith Raniere, the former self-help guru, who's, again, got all these crazy connections, he's on trial. The trial began yesterday. It's going on today. There's probably more news coming out now. But from the first day alone, we know that they described that some people within the group believed that he had the power to alter the weather, or that he had some sort of like special magical powers or something. That he, a former Nexium and DOS member who was only identified by the name Sylvie, told jurors on Wednesday that she was recruited as a slave to another woman in the organization. She says her master eventually ordered her to engage in sexual activity with Raniere, who also took nude photos of her. And there has been at least 5 other people who are supposed to testify. And again, some of the co-defendants are Seagram Liquor heiress Claire Bronfum and former Smallville actress Allison Mack, as well as others.
Multi-level marketing.
And then the other thing is they showed a video in court of him, Keith Raniere preaching about having sex with children. And they showed a video of him saying that, teaching his female followers, including discussions of sex with children as young as 12, and a video that was shown in court on Wednesday. And Raniere wrote in a sermon, which is shown in the video, in some parts of the world, the age of consent is 17. In other parts of the world, the age of consent is 12. And just basically kind of elaborating on this, on Tuesday, prosecutors said that the alleged victim in court, who was 15 years old when she was apparently raped by Keith Raniere and others, would go on to become his first, quote, sex slave. And he has also been accused, though never charged, with raping a girl hundreds of times when she was 12 and 13 years old. So this is pretty disturbing stuff if you're listening, and you're probably like, what the heck, why are they going on about this? But again, these are the kind of stories that, although this is coming from the New York Post, this is Reuters, this is a court case going on right now. There's no conspiracy or craziness about this. You can look up everything that we've mentioned and find that this group was involved with donating to Hillary Clinton through Keith Raniere and all these different connections. The reason I bring it up again is because, like, this is not the Me Too campaign. A big part of it did help reveal, like, not only Harvey Weinstein, but then there's the Jeffrey Epsteins, the billionaire pedophiles who get away without going to prison and who have connections to Trumps and Clintons and all these different people. These are real stories, not conspiracies that are happening all around you. But they're not going to make the front page of the paper. They're not going to be talked about for 24 hours a day on CNN like Russiagate or something else like that. And so it's up to, I think, shows like us to dissect them and look into that kind of nastiness, because, I mean, it's never a fun topic to really talk about. But I do think there is you may think that I've mentioned a whole lot of different stories and how are they interconnected. I do think that there is a larger connection between a lot of these things happening. The reason that they're so prominent, many of them have been revealed more recently. People are being held accountable in the age that we're living in now. People are willing to speak out and come forward, which is a good thing. But it doesn't mean it's not happening. I mean, like the other day, the Pope announces, okay, now we're going to require all of our church leaders to report if there's, a sexual crime or something. Like, it took them how many hundreds of years to figure that out? Right? I mean, it's just
They said that?
Yeah, it was a new rule change that was just announced the other day. This Pope is initiating. I can't remember the details.
Wow, he's really forward thinking.
And I mean, he's being praised that way. And like, one of our friends,
can't let an opportunity. A crisis go to waste, right? How do we come out of this looking?
I say it's a good thing, right? Obviously, but I'm just saying, like, that's not already on the books.
Saying,
that's not already like a normal
I was
thing.
being sarcastic, man. That's ridiculous.
Exactly, but yeah. So have you heard anything about that, Johnny Nexium or Micah? Did you see any of that from the first
a while
day?
back? I saw more of it.
It doesn't surprise me. There does seem to be a sick culture outside, and even my girlfriend, who's a model, has experienced a bunch of fake people that will kind of do that type of thing, and she's like,
they recruit the models.
I'm so glad that I'm the age I am, because if I grew up with social media, being a 15-year-old girl, I might not be aware that this 20-something-year-old guy talking to me isn't what he thinks. So if you do have teenagers, that stuff is for sure real. Dude,
the Jeffrey Epstein story, he worked with a modeling agency. There's this guy named Jean-Luc something or other. He's from Europe, and he's wanted on several different charges. He started a modeling agency called MC2 that was connected with Jeffrey Epstein. And some of the women who testified, the young girls at the time who are now women, testified that that's how they recruited them, as well as through modeling shows.
They ask you to dance in the videos. That's what they'll say, is what they ask to see your dance moves, to see if you could potentially be in music video is the most common.
It's crazy common stuff.
One. And it's young girls, these guys really don't care, and I don't know.
Well, how do they get there? That's the thing. Also,
it could be easy, because I could see it as
how does who get where? The people doing it? How do they get in that position?
How you're saying these young girls are there and they think they're modeling for a music video or whatever? What, parents just drop them off? I mean, what's happening?
I think there's some of that trust
social
again,
media culture.
Now it's social media. Now you don't even need your parents to drop you off somewhere. You just
they're hitting you up on your Instagram saying hey, send me a video. I have
got
this
what
production company. Yeah, exactly.
You got talent.
So you're pretty much just offering that kind of false thing, and to a really young girl, you could be
they don't know what's up.
Yeah, exactly. And
I did see a story like that. There's a dude who's like a YouTube star or something who's now being charged with child pornography because he had like, I guess, some young fans, you know, that were girls who were like 14 or 15, and he was telling them to like send him naked videos for some audition. And he was going to try to blah, blah, whatever. And like, so that ended up being, even though he was also, he was like barely, I don't know. But anyways,
man,
that's
just
how
wait
it's
till they're
happening.
18.
That's how it's happening now, is that people are getting, like that last story was talking about, people are getting recruited like in Katy or whatever through social media and stuff like that. So it's crazy stuff out there. Yeah, definitely if you're a parent or just any individual, you got to be aware that not everybody's coming with the right intentions. And I don't know why these people in power seem to be connected with so many different stories.
Just do your
kids.
research, you know. If someone is giving you an
New
opportunity,
topic.
look at it.
Measles. More than 34,000
All right,
cases
dive into that.
across Europe.
I wish we could take phone calls.
I tell you what, man, we had a call that someone said, I don't think there's an outbreak of measles in Europe. I don't think they have this question and don't just obey culture. I forgot the caller exactly. Maybe I'm paraphrasing them. But they said they didn't think it was the case. But it turns out, this is a Reuters article. Maybe Reuters is fake news. Reuters, you know. More than 34,000 people across Europe caught measles in the first 2 months of this year alone. So, you know, boom. All right, now what do you want to talk about? I'm glad I derailed that pedophile conversation. Oh, yeah, pedophiles. Why are they all over the place? And what's the deal with that? No,
I mean, I think it's just important for us to talk
fail
about.
song if we just want to play it.
Let's
we
go
should
to
play
song.
that.
We
'Cause
should
I can't
take a break.
Yeah, we
But
should.
hey, no, I just want to say though, the reason we bring it up and just in case the audience is like, yeah, it's a heavy topic, but seriously, it's something that's going on and it's real that needs to be talked about.
It's weird that we can't go. Usually, we can't go a week if you just look up the ISDs without seeing something happening in a
Y'all are
Texas
doing it again.
ISD.
Y'all are doing it again.
No,
I
I
can't
just
take
want them
anymore,
to be
man.
clear
I really
that,
can't take anymore.
that we're not running away from it because it's something that needs to be talked about. That's all.
I'm running
It's
away
true.
because I
It's
can't
true.
take anymore.
All right, we'll be back with some music. You're listening
let's play
to
some music.
Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. We'll be back in just a moment.
I don't wanna go to school. I don't wanna follow rules. I don't wanna watch TV. Telling me what I'm gonna need. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. I don't wanna go to work. Working for some stupid shirt. Work a stupid 9 to 5. Work until I'm gonna die. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take anymore. I can't take it anymore. Yeah.
All right, to fails.
To fails.
Cool.
Can't take any more.
Can't take any more. Yeah, sometimes I can't take any more either. So Micah brought up the measles topic, which obviously relates to the vaccine topic. And I just saw this right here, brand new news today here, May 10th, Friday, May 10th. Washington State limits exemptions for the MMR vaccine, which is the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, which is the one that's been controversial for a while now. According to the Associated Press, parents in Washington State will no longer be able to claim a personal or philosophical exemption for their children from receiving the MMR vaccine before attending a daycare center or school under a measure signed by Friday by Governor Jay Inslee. The state has more than 70 cases of measles this year, and Inslee signed the bill at Vancouver City Hall in the county where most of the cases were centered. The new law takes effect at the end of July. He said that the bill is an important step in public health. He warned, though, quote, "It won't do everything necessary to protect the health of our most vulnerable citizens. We should be listening to science and medicine, not social media. It is science and truth that will keep us healthy rather than fear." And Washington is among 17 states that allow some type of non-medical vaccine exemption for personal or philosophical belief. but obviously now that is changing. And it said that medical and religious exemptions remain in place under the measure passed by the legislature last month. Unless an exemption is claimed, children are required to be vaccinated against or show proof of acquired immunity for nearly a dozen diseases, including polio, whooping cough, and measles, before they can attend school or go to child care centers.
So you just don't have to go to school or a child care center.
Yeah, if you're homeschooled. But so that's the other thing, is when is somebody going to say, well, you can't homeschool your kid anymore? It said while the Senate had first sought a bill that would have removed the philosophical exemptions for all vaccines, both chambers ultimately agreed to only move forward with the MMR. So that's shows you the goal. And this, I think, gets to the philosophical question that Micah and I keep coming back to every time we talk about vaccines, is really, we talk about some of the science. We've talked about trying to get Dr. Peter Hotez in here, who's Baylor College of Medicine. He's been going around doing a lot of talks. I mentioned I'd seen him speak recently to share his perspective on why he obviously thinks vaccines are important. But for us, I think it's just we keep coming back to the philosophy behind the whole thing, and it's I don't know, the state being able to say you don't have the right to have a philosophical or obviously they're going to allow medical, but a philosophical or personal. So it doesn't, if they say it's for the right reasons, can you opt out or refuse to be injected, or your children, things like that. And I think that to me is the bigger picture here. Christie of Vancouver, Washington, was one of 3 protesters at the ceremony who stood up and turned their backs on the governor as he signed the bill. She says, quote, "I'm for medical freedom and vaccine choice," as she live streamed the signing on her cell phone. California also removed non-medical exemptions for all vaccines required for both public and private schools in 2015. And several other states are considering similar legislation, including Maine, Connecticut, and Oregon. And apparently there's been attempts in Texas as well. I don't know.
Serious.
What do you think, Micah? You think people should have personal or philosophical exemptions
No.
do
they should
whatever
just
they
have
want?
to be injected, and they shouldn't have parents or any choices or anything, right? That's dangerous stuff there. Am I right? Did I get the right answer? I got the status answer of the year.
No, but what I'm trying to understand,
I was just joking.
what the other side. Obviously it's about health. That's where they're going to come from. And say your
we've
philosophy
heard
doesn't matter because the health of kids.
Yeah,
Your personal feelings don't matter.
Yeah, we've definitely heard a number of these type of arguments. Your freedom to be sick. Remember that one? Your freedom to be sick does not trump my freedom to health. Things like this. So it's interesting to see people try to, crouch the different arguments in different ways. But in the end, what are you going to do? At the end, it seems like each time, what does government have besides force? Do we see the answers don't seem to be let's do more education about how vaccines aren't dangerous, or let's do let's hold training, or let's educate on how the simple vaccines work. You don't see that. You don't see a barrage of commercials from the drug corporations that demonstrate this. I'm just saying, it seems like the only attempt at resolution is to force.
How do you think the people of Houston would respond if because this is what happened in Brooklyn or parts of New York, where Mayor Bill de Blasio and you said that there was the mandatory vaccination order that we've talked a lot about. How do you think the people of Houston would respond to that?
I think most Houstonians would react somewhat. How did Johnny act? He's like, I wouldn't want to go. I'd probably wait and see. I think a lot of Houstonians would react that way, and I think a lot of other Houstonians would be lined up around the block because they just believe that everything's good for them. And I think some would, if you could be selective, I think, I've had vaccines, and I've had more vaccines than I wanted when I was in the military. So, I think that, obviously vaccines work. But does that mean everybody has to get a vaccine for every single thing? Does that mean we get to the point where, you're going to get a flu vaccine every single season? Think about what that's like putting into your body to have to deal with each season. Or
just crossing the threshold of making it where the state has a right or a say in what you do and don't get. Like you said, in the military, you signed a contract. You knew what you were getting into. But there's
you could be shot up with anything. So
I guess there's with the so-called social contract, right? I guess some of us, even though we never signed such a thing, we believe that that means that I have a right to my own body, my person, my individual being.
It's
but
the
they're
same
saying
thing.
You don't.
it's the same thing as we're bringing up earlier when you're talking about the schools and the dangers that happen to children there. You know, the social contract, people say, oh, my children will be better served because they'll be educated and stuff like that. So there's an assumption, you know, on tacit assumption that, you know, there's not this this evil behind it. There's not people waiting like hens at the or wolves at the hen house. There's not these things. There's not untested things. There's not corporatist interests like the Gardasil incident where, you know, it was obvious that it was corporately driven, the need for that vaccine, that maybe not that it didn't serve good, but the drive behind implementing it so rapidly, etc. I think that's probably, you know, it's really a scary thing, because how much power do you want to entrust them with? You know, never before was it okay to just like mandatorily vaccinate people, you know, but never before were American citizens required to, you know, have all kinds of things have never before. So that's not a
the world
good
has changed,
against
Micah.
it, right?
The Constitution's a long time ago, Micah. That was a long time ago. Those, you know, you got to update, you got to upgrade, and these are arguments that I've heard from different folks. I'm being sarcastic about it because I think that
now let's talk about the
rights don't
vaccine
matter.
court. Why does this thing exist, and why are billions of dollars paid out? And you know, I don't think that the health concern is the only concern, and I don't think I'm, you know, a medical doctor or could possibly explain the health concerns well enough, you know, to anybody. But there obviously are health concerns because there's these findings. So I mean, I don't want to get in the way of those people, and you don't have to have already known health problem to not want the risk of a vaccine.
Well, I think like what you said comes back to the whole thing, is that where some folks will say like, well, look, your freedom to not be vaccinated ends where my desire to be healthy and
stay
free,
outside my fence.
Yeah, but see that, I mean, but then obviously germs don't, or diseases don't know physical boundaries, right? So they're like, you not being vaccinated. It's just there's a fear built in. And
maybe they're weaker because they're vaccinated, and their ability to be weak doesn't triumph my freedom to be strong. Did I say that right?
Maybe so. But I mean, again, I just think it's going to keep coming back to the collectivist argument of like, if an individual values like the idea of collective
Bring
good
it on, collectivists.
better than they think that, you know, then
it's always
your individual
this, right?
thing, then that's where it's just going to keep coming back to. Like, all right, well, you guys are crazy. You don't want to get but this is what I need to feel safe. And if the rest of us agree, then we need to do this to be safe. Then forget you.
Well, I think it's also, aren't there ways to study the rate at which diseases spread, etc.? You know, So there should be a point, a contagion point or something, if nothing else, before like a mandatory vaccination. Think about it. They'll go, oh no, you're willing to let this many people get sick before you step up and do something, you know? So I don't know. I think there's been a lot of crazy medicines, and I just don't trust them enough to start shooting everybody up with things. I'm not telling. I think that maybe it'd be great if everybody just voluntarily vaccinated against the bad diseases with the good vaccines. Yes, but is that always the case? I don't think so. And two, I don't think that anybody should be that blindly trusting. And look at the things that have been approved for medicals now. You know, like these tiny little bots and stuff.
Nano stuff.
Isn't the chip a bio product? I mean, like, so where do you draw the line? I mean, okay, so
where do you draw the line?
If you don't have the rights to your body, who does? Them?
Well, we already have been told we don't have the right to our own minds because you're not allowed to decide what you want to put in your own mind. But I want to jump stories real quick, Mike. I actually have a piece of good news.
Oh yeah, I got one.
Okay, well you go first.
No, I'm not going to. Tell you what, though, we're talking about medical stuff. Federal prosecutors. This is supposedly the biggest opioid bust of all Houston. I mean, all history, right, of the U.S. Right, the largest U.S. opioid prescription bust. They got 60 doctors. I don't know about you. I mean, I've been on the street. Yeah. You know, and that doesn't sound like that much, right? Federal prosecutors charged 60 physicians and pharmacists Wednesday with illegally handing out opioid prescriptions in what they say is the biggest crackdown of its kind in U.S. history. I'm not saying I want opioids to be illegal. I'm just saying we do have an epidemic of it.
Yeah. There's been more pressure coming, like, recently, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, they're just saying that the doctors, traded to, just like anybody, they're human beings. They traded drugs for sex and gave prescriptions to Facebook friends without proper medical exams. I mean, so if you think your doctor's an authority, 60 of these guys were just scripts in 5 minutes or something, right? Like I saw Southside Scripts. Get your scripts filled, yo. But yeah, people addicted to pain medication because there's a lot of pain in the world, really.
There's a lot of pain in the world, and there's also a lot of people out there trying to sell them, sell them their crap. And yeah, this is this one may be the biggest one, but I've definitely noticed an increase in stories like this over the last couple of years, where actually some doctors have been being held accountable, which is, I think, a good thing. Because, yeah, they are just drug dealers in a different way, but
But once they're a doctor, it's sort of like being a teacher, right?
It's that authority thing again, right? The person, and also, in some of the cases, this probably is the case when the one you're talking about, they're actually getting people hooked. It's not like they're just randomly, giving people medicine. They're like getting people hooked.
It's highly addictive.
Ends up in death quite often. I want to point out this other fact. I'm sure no pharmaceutical company was complaining about this. These illegal prescriptions put as many as 32 million pain pills in the hands of consumers.
I'm sure they went to responsible adults who didn't abuse them at all.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like that system is that much safer. But yeah, they got all kinds of individuals that were involved in it. 350,000 improper prescriptions in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and the story goes on. I didn't want to go into the details too much, but yeah, 60 arrested in the biggest bust ever, and a total of 32 million pain pills given out to patients in the opioid crisis. So.
Well, on another
as far as trusting doctors.
medical front, you guys may have heard that Denver decriminalized psilocybin, or at least took the biggest step towards that direction. And it was actually a pretty interesting story because it was another example of fake news as far as the corporate media rushing to saying it failed, and then, hours later having to correct themselves once the final counts were actually tallied. And so, yeah, in Denver, it's technically not, legal. That's what decriminalizing is about. It's not with the law getting involved, but basically it made it where it's the lowest priority of the police at all to go after people who are in possession of.
Sounds about right. Should be your lowest priority.
Like, is it just a ticket?
If you're hungry,
it's nothing. Like they won't even bother you. But it's just like so.
Like if they need to get gas in the car, they should do that first.
If they end up pulling you over or something like that, yeah, and like you have this, and then something. If you have that, and then maybe like you didn't get a license or something like that.
What if they're
going to go for that?
What if they're hungry and think about pulling in and getting a Swiss burger? Is that a higher priority?
It's a huge step.
I think as long as you're not operating a motor vehicle, it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, it's pretty cool, though, because, it's a huge step as far as, obviously Denver decriminalized cannabis before the whole state did earlier, so that some people see that this
burn the city to the ground?
No, but it hasn't burned the city to the ground. Obviously, it was 51% to like 49%, so it wasn't like it was like everybody wanted it. It was definitely pretty split. But a lot of the work is coming from like groups like MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and other local groups who have been on the ground working to, I guess, get people to be aware, like, hey, this is a crime. Again, back to self-ownership. I feel like a lot of these stories come back to that because we're like, well, look, if they think they own your mind, they can control your mind.
Well, they already own your body, then you can't put nothing in it.
And they get to tell you can't even alter your state of mind, because if you eat this fungus or this plant or this mold or whatever,
just say no to that and yes to vaccines.
Then just eat all of these opioid pills that the doctors are going to give you because
they're the experts.
So,
and you told them I was depressed because I was.
Psilocybin mushrooms are more effective in getting people to quit cigarettes than almost anything else.
Well, in all seriousness, definitely the last couple of years there have been studies on people who are nicotine addicted, people for treating people with depression. Like the FDA is pretty close to approving.
Right?
Yeah, with a therapist.
Should we go to a therapist?
That's what they were even saying. Like, look, just because it's
help you kick cigarettes, maybe.
Just because it's decriminalized, they're saying like obviously like if you're really trying to have some psychedelic trip and gain something, they're like, we suggest having like a sitter or a licensed therapist. They got to say that, of course, but at the least have somebody where you're there with them and you're in a safe space where you can do whatever you got to do.
Buddy,
and then the next day you come back and you decompress, right? You kind of go through like, okay, this is what I felt. Maybe I had some breakthroughs or this and that or whatever. So you integrate the experience. And so, yeah, it's cool to see that happening. We're at a point now, which is pretty crazy to me because I remember being a little crazy kid in junior high and like reading about things like LSD and mushrooms and reading about these old studies from like the 50s about like how they used to study and test these as medicines before they were made illegal as part of the drug war. And just like, wow, that's so crazy. And I would tell everybody that I ever met, like, because I just got kind of obsessed about it. I thought it was so cool. It's like, hey, no, these are really medicines. They used to test it, but the tests weren't apparently up to par. And now we're at a point where the FDA is about to approve MDMA for therapeutic use for the first time since the late 70s. It's like, it's still the state involved, but to me, it's like, okay, well, it's still, some progress towards people being able to get medicines and maybe less people locked up for it.
I think the real reason that all this is coming out is just the information that the internet has allowed just to be completely open. You know what I mean?
The culture is changing it. It's not the government, for sure.
I mean, because these guys would have been perfectly happy with us being in the dark about this forever, but it starts, becoming so obvious. Like you couldn't deny it. With
you had
the
like
weed thing.
You have Trump's Jeff Sessions, though, guy. There's people like him still out there who are still out there trying to push the reefer madness type stuff and like, this will make you go psychotic. And people just laugh at him. You know what I mean? Like, because like you said, the internet, people can like, no, this guy sounds like something I've seen on a movie. This is not real life. But yeah, I think that was a good move for Denver. We'll see how it plays out. And they're going to study it over the next couple years. And if it's successful, I'd imagine we'll see some more of that.
Singapore's parliament Wednesday passed laws to combat fake news.
Here we go.
Yep. That will allow authorities to order the removal of content despite criticism or lack thereof from tech giants, media, and rights groups. Gives government ministers powers to order social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, put warnings next to posts authorities deem to be false, and in extreme cases, get them removed. If an action is judged to be malicious and damaging to Singapore's interests, companies shall be hit with fines of up to Singapore $1 million, $735,000. Individuals can face jail terms of 10 years.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. I actually had this article that I saw earlier today that's kind of related to that. It's talking about, it was actually written by these two guys. It's called The Splintering of the Internet. Means trouble for Facebook, Twitter, and Google. And the short version of it is basically saying that we're seeing different zones, as he describes it, in the world where different nations, and based on how totalitarian they are, dealing with the internet in different ways. So the internet's fracturing more and more. Obviously, the U.S. is trying to tighten their controls, and a lot of them are using fake news as the excuse or reason, like you were just saying. China obviously has what they call the Great Firewall of China. It's like already tightly controlled. Google's not there, Facebook's not there because they ban all kinds of content. Europe has passed their own like restrictions on privacy, and so we're starting to see the internet is not, and it never really has been, but we're seeing even more with Singapore, India, other countries are using the idea of fake news spreading as well as a way to start controlling their internet. Brazil's internet is different, so it's just interesting. They were just talking about how we're really moving into that era now where there's this fracturing and splintering of the internet, although the government you're living under, depending on where you live at, probably doesn't want you to realize that.
No doubt. I want to mention a couple other items real quick. I know we're getting down to the last few minutes, and I just want to make sure we do a little justice on the FM side to these. And I want to remind everybody that we are on HD every Monday. So for a much longer, more developed show, we'd love to have you call in and join the conversation. Tiananmen Square. China steps up curbs on activists for the 30th anniversary. Every year in late May, they take this one individual, Hu Zhuai. He's taken on what they call a mandatory holiday. You want a mandatory holiday? A port city he's taken to about 200 miles from his home. He is accompanied by police on walks around the park or by the sea, and he's always in view of a minder. I'm not sure what a minder is. A minder. Sorry, someone watching him. Hugh returns. Yep. Hugh returns to the capital only after the 4th of June, the anniversary of the Chinese government crackdown on pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square. So just want to remind everybody of Tiananmen Square. Well, we're meddling in everybody else's business because this June does mark the 30th anniversary of the crackdown in which 3,000 students, workers, and other demonstrators are thought to have died. Another estimate is to put the number at 10,000. That's a lot of people, So, you want to talk about democracy and caring about people's voices, and then buy everything from a country where it has a repressive regime like this. But yeah, so I thought it was really interesting that they move people around. They actually take the former protesters, the people that have been arrested, people that are activists, and they move them around during this time so that they cannot really organized. I thought that was a unique and different approach that I'd
way
never
to shuffle
seen.
them about, right?
Yep.
I got one last little area I'm going to throw out, and I'll be done for the day. I just want to remind you guys, we're here again, like Micah said, every Friday from 3 to 4. We are here on Mondays from 4 to 6 on the HD2 dial, and if you want to support KPFT, visit kpft.org or call in anytime at 713-526-5738. But just in the last couple of days, another bit of good news. San Francisco, one of their basically city council passed a ordinance called the Stop Secret Surveillance Ordinance, which is going to, and again, this is another area of common sense, like why wasn't this already happening? Now that anytime the city considers buying surveillance equipment, they have to hold a vote. They have to actually give the people a chance to say something about it. And again, it's like, wait, why wasn't that already normal? And they banned facial recognition within the city.
Wow.
So they're the first American city to,
Where?
In San Francisco.
Okay.
First city to ban facial recognition and, they make restrictive rules and do a study on all this kind of stuff. So that was kind of interesting. And then I showed you earlier, Micah, I saw this story about an app. I've never used it. Some of you may have. It's called Ever. Ever app is an online cloud photo storage app. And apparently hundreds of millions of people had used it and uploaded photos. And it's recently been revealed that they were taking your photos, feeding them into an artificial intelligence algorithm, facial recognition database, and then selling that to the cops, to the government, and to private companies.
And you didn't get paid.
And you got nothing for it. Now they have your face, and they're using it for whatever. But, yeah, technology is a tool, but it's a scary tool. It's a good thing. Be wise the way you use it. I think that's all I got, Micah.
Tomorrow at the Pub Galleria, Violinda will be having their album release. They've been a former guest on this show before. Got all kinds of cases. We can't continue. Hope you join us Monday. We got all kinds of Indiana beating cases, children shot in the head, 3 children shot in the head by police. Can't get into that story. Don't have time. Florida governor signs bill allowing more armed teachers. Can't get into that. Don't have time right now. Student loan outlook is reversed, showing that it's costing the country $31 billion. Don't have time for that one. Join us Monday for Freethinker Radio on the HD band. I'm done. Y'all are beautiful, wonderful people. Thank you, Johnny, for all your support. Thank you, KPFT.
Thanks, Johnny. What are we listening to?
We're going to leave you guys with El Jumbotron, Nature's Revenge.
All right, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week.
Here's a short story about a dying hollow.